And it was on this day, May 20th, 2022, that I finished Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third book of the Wax and Wane series, which is the second era of Mistborn, which is also the indicator that I'm officially caught up on this series. The fourth book comes out this fall. I will be reading that around when it comes out. It may be a few months because I'll be getting it through my library. If it's this size though, I think it's doable. So yeah, I read it. It was really good. It was really good. It doesn't, to start off, this book doesn't have the same punch you in the face kind of impression that the last book did, evidently, but it still is very satisfying and just a satisfying read, especially with how small it is. It took me, in reality, it took me 2 days to read this book. I just wasn't reading the book for all those other 30 plus days. I'm sorry. I am actually sorry. I wanted to read this during finals week, but I told myself I'm not allowed to read during finals. And then summer break started and I just never read. So I'm sorry. I got obsessed with a TV show, which is very rare for me. I'm not a TV person, but I did get obsessed with a TV show. I started another YouTube channel. That announcement we'll get into further at the end of the video. I actually started Twitch streaming. I've been doing all these other things, but not reading, and I feel very guilty. So I started reading and I finished in 2 days. So, you know, sometimes I just have to read and then we're there. I really do need to read though. So anyway, I finished this book and it's very good. Non-spoiler time. I have a lot of things to say in non-spoilers, and when I was trying to put them all together, I was jumping around a lot, and so I want to do a ahead of time apology for each time I jump around in this section. Okay? Good? Alright. The first thing I want to say just reiterates what I've said about the previous 2 books, and that is that I love the world building, and I love the lore, and I love the history, and I really, really love all the little seeds, the little like sprinkles that Sanderson put throughout this book as callbacks to the first series. I really, really love every single one of those moments that makes me remember, oh yeah, I remember that, or like gets a laugh out of people who are like have read the first series and are able to make the link behind what the joke is and all that. It's just so satisfying and enjoyable, and it makes me really, really, really want to read the first series again, which I get to read the first series again very soon. Again, we'll cover that in the what's next section. Yeah. So, but also, aside from like the callbacks to the first series, there's a lot of world building with the new history and the new technology, and also new reveals that we did not know previously about this world. And so we're like discovering everything anew again, even though we think we know a lot already. And part of the fun of this book is watching the characters discover things as they are going, things that are new, things that nobody would have ever thought of before in this world. And so there's this like historical aspect, but also this like exploring aspect and more detective work. We know that I love mysteries. This book has a lot of mystery themes, and it also just has detective work with what they're finding and like not knowing what it does and trying to explore technology and what the future is for mankind. And that's also very enjoyable. So, yay! I love all of that across the board. The lore, the world building, the discoveries, all very enjoyable. Seeing technology, being like, what the hell is that? When the characters are like, what the hell is that? And figuring it out along with them. All very fun, and I very much enjoy all that. So, yay! What next? We'll get into that later. Something I wanted to touch on just because it means a lot to me, and while I don't read the LGBTQ plus genre that often, if at all, I don't think I ever. I did once. It's not a genre that I'll go out and seek, but it's obviously something that matters a lot to me. And so when I am pleasantly surprised when an author includes it in a series, I'm actually very happy, because that's how it should be. I should be able to pick up a book on a shelf and just have it be like there, subtle in the background, just like how it is. You know, it's ingrained in the world already. And Sanderson, even though, again, I never saw it coming, did that in the series. He very subtly, again, without making a big deal out of it, had a character. I guess I shouldn't give away what character, but had a character have a girlfriend. And again, it was like this like one line mention, not a big deal, but it was done so casually. I was like, wait, really? And I seriously went to Google and like made sure, is this character a lesbian? And Google said yes. Nobody said bisexual, so I'm assuming she's not bisexual and that the intention was lesbian. I guess that's technically up to Sanderson, but Google said so, and I was like, oh, because I never saw it coming. And I did notice in the last book, I never brought it up, even though I knew I should have. In the last book, and especially in this book, Wayne also has all these themes on like gender ambiguity. I don't know how to say that word, but basically Wayne shows this theme that like gender is fluid, and I don't know if it was intentional of Sanderson or not, but like it's something that Wayne truly believes, is that, hey, like he's flat out talking to someone in this book and trying to tell them, you shouldn't be like stuck in this like one perspective. Like you should understand that you can flow back and forth perfectly fine, and that's how gender is. And so I was also very happy reading that, because gender's fluid. And I love seeing a character think that way, especially in like just, it's just how they are, it's just how they think. So natural. So I really love that Sanderson did it, and he did it without, again, making it like this massive romance plot thing that some people do. Which also isn't bad, but it's just not something I would want in my fantasy book. Well, maybe. I don't know, because I've never had it happen, but, you know. We'll get into that in what's next. So yeah, I did want to bring that up, though. I didn't expect it of Sanderson, but he did it. And go you! For real. I want to mention that last. There were some smart plot solutions. That's something that I would talk about during Codex Alera. I talked about like how smart plot solutions can really like keep you on your toes, but at the same time you can be like, I don't see how the characters are getting out of this without it being like a bit absurd or cliche. But then there's a solution that like fixes that puzzle. Something I will say, this kind of gets into my two negatives. I only have two negatives. Two. The first one is, and I said this with the last two, a certain bad guy is very cliche. And I mean very cliche. In this book, it was a bit much. Just a little bit much. And it's not a bad thing. It's not going to weigh down the book or like break the deal or anything. It's just one of those things that as I'm reading it, I'm like, man, this is a little absurd. This is getting out there. This is like some James Bond thing happening where Bond and the villain are bantering more than they're actually fighting. That was the impression I got, and so yeah, there was a little bit of wincing sometimes when I was like, this is a bit absurd. But usually, and sometimes, there was like a plot solution or a perspective that the bad guy had that fixed that and made it not as bad. But it was definitely a general impression I was getting while I was reading. And so it stuck on me, and I did want to mention that. But again, it's very small, and if you just keep reading, you know, literally everything makes you forget about that. But it was one impression I had when I was reading all those scenes with that guy. And also there was a plot thing that was so predictable. I called it from like way like half the book before I called it. And I was right. And I'm just saying it was very predictable. Alright, and then my other... This, I said negative thing. This isn't necessarily a negative... okay. It is a little bit of a negative thing, but it also just happens with reading and writing all the time. It's just how things are, and it also may just be my impression. But there were some scenes in this book, especially scenes where all the characters were together. You had Milan and Wayne and Wax and Marasai and Steris, like, all together, that seemed a bit forced, if you know what I mean. And so, like, the jokes or, like, the banter between them didn't come naturally or casually, and it seemed like the scene was, like, made for the purpose of having a joke, and that was it, you know? And that might just be my impression, it might just be how I was thinking at the time, but that was something that stuck in my head. And one of my insights from reading that was actually at how different this group of people is from the Mistborn Era 1 group of people. The Mistborn Era 1 group of people just... they are like the ragtag gang, you know? It's like the groups of kids in like It and the Goonies and all those things. Like, you know, like, even if they don't get along all the time, this is the group you are following, and it's enjoyable. It's like, it's so satisfying to see the group all together and like planning and theorizing and everything, and just how casually and naturally they like jab at each other, and all the good emotions. That's one of the things that I love the most about Mistborn Era 1, if you're excluding some very big things, is just how the characters, like, even if I didn't necessarily like the character, I loved how they interacted with the group enough that I respected the character, if that makes sense. And so, that's one of the things I loved about Era 1. In Era 2, they just don't fit together that way. They don't have that kind of casual camaraderie. There's... Wax and Wayne definitely have, like, their own connection, and, like, that is, like, really satisfying in the same way. But I feel like Steris and Marasai and Milan just don't have that with them. Even with, like, the jokes and the banner, it just doesn't feel the same. And it shouldn't feel the same. It should be different with each group of people. But there were times in which it felt like he was trying to do that, but it felt forced to the point where it just didn't work for me. But again, I may be misinterpreting and misunderstanding, but that's just how I interpreted it. So yeah. But that does lead into the fact that, yes, I still love the characters a lot. I will say, Steris, I have a lot of friends that love Steris as a character, because she's, like, wholesome and other words that I don't have. I don't feel that way. I don't know why, but just something about Steris, like, I understand that she's supposed to be funny and, like, wholesome, or, like, I don't have the words for her. I don't know how to describe her because I don't feel this way about her. She's supposed to have, like, all these, like, very funny, relatable feelings, but she just... right over me. And that's fine. That's just a my preference thing. She just never stood out to me or mattered to me. And even when, like, there was a scene where, like, she was supposed to be doing something funny or, like, bringing something out in Wax as a person and all those things, it would just... it would go right by me. It just doesn't... She just doesn't stand out to me. And that's fine. I don't hate her. I don't dislike her. I just don't like her or love her either. She's just true neutral for me. Just never got my attention, and just not a favorite. But literally every other character in the main group are all characters that I freaking love and adore. We got Marisai, who's like really close to my favorite. It's between Marisai and Wayne. I love both of them. They're both wholesome, but they're also both just amazing and badass, and both have amazing themes. I love them. I love them. That's, yep. Wax. I can appreciate Wax for a lot of different reasons, but he's not my favorite, and he's also somebody that I don't know if I'd actually get along with in real life. I feel like maybe I wouldn't, and I think that is very interesting to think about. We have Melan. Melan is very funny, and also just... It's very hard to get me to dislike a Kandra, okay? Well, I'll just be blunt about that. I can't hate a Kandra. I can't. After, like, I can't. That's all I need to say. And there's a fifth character. Oh, there was a new character introduced in this book, and his name was Alric? Alec? Is it Alec? I think it's Alec. I'm not going to be able to find it, but I think his name is Alec. I'm sorry if I'm saying any of these names wrong. I also really liked Alec. Like, as soon as we met him, I was like, interesting. And then, like a page or two later, I was like, I like this guy. Right off the bat. Just good impression and very interesting. And I really hope we see him again. The end implied that we might see him again, so... We'll see, though. So, I do love my characters, as always, and it's one of the things that just really keeps me hooked into a book, is, like, seeing all the interactions and all that they're going through and everything that's going on. It's just so satisfying. It makes me very happy. Alright. Check. Check, 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 check. 1 second. Yeah, I'll dig into that in spoilers. I talked about that. I wrote some analogies here about, like, my saltiness. It's actually very funny. Again, I was drawing links to, like, James Bond and Indiana Jones and another book series, which I figured I shouldn't mention because it kind of gives away how that character is, but it's just great. And I think I said it, but I'll repeat it in case I didn't say it. All the characters grow in this book, and it's just so interesting, satisfying, and also just makes me so happy to see them grow and change. And even Steris, who kind of you would think would be a static character, even she has like her like very, very tiny shift, her very tiny change. And it's just another thing that I love to see with characters, is just how they grow and change and adapt based on all the things happening around them. And that will lead into my biggest point in spoilers. So, this is your chance to leave. We're going to spoilers. Going to spoilers. We're going to spoilers. Okay? Okay. Marisai. Alright. This book and the previous book, but in both of these books, Marisai has this sort of like theme or idea, or I keep saying the word theme even though I am not like a theme-based person. She has this theme that she has where she always feels like she's in Wax's shadow. She feels like she is stuck behind, like she can't like really make her own name. And I felt very strongly with each of those scenes, and especially with like all the times that like she was meant to do something, but then people just link it back to Wax, or like make what she did make it sound like it's about Wax, or only hire her because of Wax. And that just it hurts. It hurts to read that for her, and I really want her to be able to like make a statement and like have like a key role both in her own life and like for society and things, because fucking go women. So this is just how I feel. And there's this bit later on where she has power and she has this role, and as soon as she has it, she has this thought, this is not me. And first of all, I love how that was done. I love how that was done. The reason I wrote yes in all caps on my sticky note was because she finally had power, and she was like, she had a role, and this was like her chance to like stand up and be apart from Wax. But then, right after, she has that epiphany where she's like, this is not me. And she goes and she saves Wax and has Wax do that role, like be that role. And I was also okay with that as well, because a lot of it was about like her being her own person, being her own goals and doing what she wants to do, and not be this like hero that she fantasized with when she was doing research on Wax and Wayne way like prior to the series. And so there were like really good ideas in both directions, and I just really wanted to say that I like loved that journey for her at the end of the book, like just her trying to figure out, okay, what do I actually want to do then, and that kind of stuff. And I really want her to have like an amazing badass awesome role like yes, but also just being the detective is like satisfying and like makes me really happy. Like she kind of gives Caitlin vibes. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And I just love her. I love her. I love her very dearly. She's, again, my favorite, contending with Wayne. And Wayne is just... Wayne's a character. Wayne is just... Wayne's precious. And so... it's a very close competition. But I love Marasai, and I love those themes at the end of the book with, like, Wax trying to... also tell her, hey, you have power, even if I keep implying that you're not useful or I keep leaving you out. At the same time, this is your opportunity. And at the same time, she is like, I don't want this opportunity. So it's a scene I'm going to be reflecting on for like a long time now. But throughout the entire book, I was cheering for her, and I really wanted her to, you know, not feel guilt. Like, it's a terrible guilt, and I do, from experience, kind of know part of that guilt. Not to the extent she was having it, but I had a very big period of time, actually, where I was trying to very much participate in, like, women's societies and do, like, research. And, like, when I was doing my essays, sometimes I would talk about that and talk about how women are treated in STEM, and you would think that it's better nowadays, but nope. I can tell you at my school, apparently, we still have a lot of, especially in the, is it electrical? I think it's electrical. Electrical engineering being, like, absolutely terrible for women. And my degree, I'm not going to say my degree, but my particular major in my school also has, when it accepts 50-50, so 50% men, 50% women, doesn't include non-binary. But it accepts 50-50, but by the time people graduate, it's like 80-20 or 90-10, which is terrible. That is a very high dropout rate. And apparently, after talking to a bunch of these people who did drop out, it is because of how they are treated in my major, just by all the men. And that's just terrible and annoying and horrible. And I have experienced it a little bit with some of the people in some of my classes that are that way. And it's just how you just know you're being talked down to when they talk to you. And it's so fucking annoying. Oh, mini rant, but... you could tell that Marasai, I really hope I'm not missaying that, Marasai feels that guilt and like feels like she feels guilt because she feels like she's not doing enough, or she feels like she's being mistreated when she knows that she probably isn't. Whether or not Wax is intentionally doing it, it's okay to like feel upset about it, because there is like definitely a lot of unintentional impressions that people give to us as well, especially just in how they talk. A lot of people talk about this. I would give resources, but I don't know their names, honestly. But it's very funny. I talked to a bunch of other trans men, and trans men will talk about how they were treated beforehand and how they were treated after, like, transitioning. And they are able to point out, like, how, even if it's, like, that, like, very tiny, very subtle, how people talk differently to them. And it's a problem. A lot of the examples they give is actually, like, really, like, annoying. And again, it's not something they're intentionally doing. It's just ingrained in how they talk to people. Marasai should not feel guilt over being a little upset about that, because you should be upset about that. So, but in the end, going back to the book, in the end, she decides, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do as a person and set out on my path. And go her! So I'm really hoping we see her more and see, like, what role she ends up playing, especially with, like, law enforcement and those things, in the next book. I got very ranty there. I'm sorry. I just... Anyway, other spoilers. Seized? Seized? That scene is so good. Like, so good. The scene where Wax is talking to Seized after he dies, and they're, like, taking this walk. Oh, the scene is very well written. That's one of those scenes that I can keep rereading for the rest of my life. I'm probably gonna make a list of those scenes and, like, post them somewhere, but that scene is on that list. It's just so well done, and you can tell the interaction between them. There's like this tension, but at the same time there's this connection between them, and also this, like, separation at the same time. It was one of those scenes where you don't know where it's going. Oh, it was a really good scene. I can't really dive much more into it because I had all these kinds of feelings going on, but especially when Seized called him son, I was like, oh my god, you've grown. Seized has grown from the person he used to be in the first series, and also Wax has grew in that very moment. He realized, like, what he thinks. It was so good. It was so good. It made me very happy. Was that all I had for spoilers? Oh, the idea of anybody using a metal mind being, like, very scary. And also, there's this question in this book. There's multiple questions in this book. What does Seized not know? Which is a very scary question. Still don't have the answer to that. But there's this question earlier in the book of how did Ellen become a Mistborn? There was this ball that gave him all the abilities of allomancy. This one ball. Who made it? Where did it come from? And part of the journey of this book was trying to figure that out, but I don't think we actually did get an answer, did we? Someone made this ball to become a Mistborn, and it was just left in the Well of Ascension. It just happened to be there. How did it get there? Like, I have this whole new mystery in my head, and I want to know. So that was also very interesting, and I'll be thinking. I will be thinking. Anything else? I think that's actually most everything I had, except for the specific question, the quotes. There was a quote where, what was his name? Vondel, where Vondel was like, "You know, I'm wearing your ancestors' hands." That was hilarious. Like the fact that he just has Breeze's hands. That's the most believable thing like there is in the book. And also the fact that the Lord Mistborn, which was Lestibornes, which it was, what was his nickname? The fact that I can't, Spook. The fact that all of Spook's speeches after the Cadascendre was just written by Breeze, also very believable. And it's the fact that all the main characters look up to those figures like they were like inhuman or like they were like some other person, and like frown when they turn out to like not have been like as smart as they thought. That's literally how we are as humans. Like, they were human. They had their flaws. I mean, Breeze was freaking sobbing under a house at one point, if y'all remember. And, like, they are just as human, but the fact that they're painted as these, like, massive figures in history, and, like, everyone thinks that they were, like the absolute, like, brilliant, like, masterminds, is fascinating to me. And I love seeing that dynamic because, again, that's how we are. One person does one famous thing, and then all of a sudden we forget about all their flaws and, like, everything about them as history goes on. And that's just a fascinating thing to think about, and I really like how that was portrayed in this book. And it also really makes me want to read the first series again because I miss Breeze and I miss Saze and I even miss Spook. Oh my goodness, the good days. So I think that was most all I had. Hello, I just want to add on one other thing into the spoilers because I forgot to mention it. And that thing would be Kelsier? What? Huh? Who? Kelsier? I don't know how I feel about it. First of all, I don't know if I believe it, and second of all, I don't know if I would be all that happy if it did happen. If you remember way back when I read Mistborn 1, I was actually very critical of Kelsier, something we are definitely going to address when I reread the series. And I didn't think Kelsier should have been as big a deal as he was made out to be. And of course, like now in this series, the survivorist religion is like a very strong belief that people have because, you know, the survivor survived, supposedly. And, I mean, technically he came back to life at the, you know, technically there was a few minutes where he survived. But, apparently that wasn't written down in history and everything, so, you know, anyway, he's alive? He's the god? See, it didn't fit together that it was the Lord Rulers, because the Lord Ruler died beforehand, but it seemed like Alaric was implying, Alec, there we go. Alec seemed to imply that it was just around the time period, just around the reset. And it makes sense that Kelsier could have survived during the reset because, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I read that book, but if I remember correctly, Ellen and Vin's bodies were there after the world reset, and Kelsier's wasn't. But Kelsier's body was there, if I remember correctly. Again, it's been a while since I read Hero of Ages, so that's all I have to say. Back to the original recording of the video. What's new and what's next? I forgot to pull the books out, so let's pull the books out. But what is next is the book after this book. It's called The Lost Metal. Which apparently, we also found a new metal in this book, but we didn't talk about it. Anyway. The Lost Metal is the name of the next book. I forgot Oathbringer came out after this book. The Lost Metal is the next book in the series. It comes out this fall, and I will be reading it then. But until then... Now we play Jigsaw Puzzle. This happens a lot. Come here. Come here. No. Come here. I really jammed this in here. Come on. I believe in you. Oh, shit. Okay. I forgot how I put this in. I'm stupid. There we are. Frick. I'm sorry, books. I'm sorry. I forgot that there was a metal thing. I always forget there's a damn metal thing. Which one of these is the first book? Yeah, it's this way. And we need you. Come here. Alright. My bad, sorry. There's this metal, in order to hold the shelf elf, there's this metal thing. And the metal thing was in front of this book, and I was trying to pull it out, and I was just pulling it into the metal thing. Because I'm stupid. So. We'll be rereading Codex Alera for my, like, year in review, or, like, my year reflection on this series. And when I say reread, I mean... Sorry, I'm trying to find a chapter. I forgot, this book, the chapters are in the middle of the page. The book I just read, the chapters are a new page. Anyway, just going through a chapter like this. Yep, I remember this. Yeah, whining. Like, that kind of pace. Where I'm just, I realized the book wasn't showing. Where I'm just going down and remembering the scenes as I go. And then if there's like a scene I appreciate or want to address again, then I'll read that scene. But this will be quick, I promise. I already did this book like a month ago. I went through and I reread this book along with my friend rereading it. And my friend is currently on book 4, Captain's Fury. So very exciting. But I will reread this series and then do my 1 year later. Do I still love this series? Is it still hold up? Is basically the question. So I will be rereading this series. I'm also very excited because there's a certain character in this series that I love so much. And every time my character like talks about it, my character. Holy hell. Every time my friend talks about him while he's reading, I'm like, yes, yes. Because it's great. It's great. I just miss a lot of the characters in this series. I miss them. So, we get the 1 year anniversary of reading that series. The new series I'll be reading, though. Yes! Yes! I'm so excited to read these. I'm so excited. The reason I mentioned this earlier is because this is a world, our world. This is a series where LGBTQ plus the existence of that is like already ingrained in society. It's in the background. It's already there. And also, it's just a badass premise, and they wanted to make this series right, and I am excited to see how they made it. And also, apparently it has very amazing characters, and apparently it goes by a lot pretty fast for how big the book is. And apparently it's just amazingly well made, so I'm very excited to read these. This is, I never actually said what book this is. Breathe. This is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is the first book of The Expanse, and The Expanse is a 9-book series. I only owned 3 of them. But if I like the first 3, you bet I'm buying the rest of them. They will get their own shelf, I swear. I'm so excited to read this. I've waited years to read this. Years to read this series. And I finally get to. And I've been waiting for so long. But I'm very excited to read these. If I remember correctly, I don't have the sticky note here, of course, because I'm stupid. If I remember correctly, my Mistborn anniversary is in July. It's either late June or early July or mid-July. But my Mistborn anniversary is this summer, and so I'll get to reread Mistborn Era 1 as well. Which I'm also very excited to do, because I miss those characters a lot right now. So yay! I might read chapter 1 of this tonight, I'll be honest. I want to meet the people. I want to meet the very first person and get my first impression of this series. I honestly might. I'm very tempted. I think I will. I'm so excited. Oops. I was looking for the next chapter and then suddenly there's chapter 3. Okay, chapter 2. Chapter 1. I am so excited. Also, this is sci-fi, by the way. So I get my break from fantasy as well. This ended up being 40 minutes. I'm sorry, I ranted, but this is a very great book. I don't own any new books. This is a very great book, and I'm very excited to see where else this series goes. But I will be rereading this for sure, because this was another just satisfying book, and it makes me very happy. That's all I got. I get to go eat dinner now. Bye-bye. I'm back again because I forgot about something I said I would do earlier in the video, and that is my little new channel announcement. I am currently in progress working on a second YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel will be public soon, hopefully, but not yet. Currently, I have a bunch of unlisted videos that I'm making sure that I'm content with and happy before I make them public. But when I am, they will be put public, and I will finally be able to talk about this part of me. It's a very big part of my life, and it's something that I feel I should put my perspective and my experiences on out there on the internet. And so I've decided I'll make a second YouTube channel to talk about it and hopefully have those open conversations with people. So this is just that little announcement. Now this is actually ending the recording. I hope you all have a good week. Goodbye.